Take 5. Okay, for some reason or another, these haven't been either encoding the video or catching the audio. So this is the 5th time I've done this particular video. I'm hoping this is the charm. The 5th time is the charm. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is enlarge our screen. And this screen's a little touchy. This is the Linux operating system. It doesn't work quite as well as it does in Windows. Today we're going to be talking about the auction house. And not just the auction house, but what do you do when you face a player shortage? You have a lot of guys retiring, and all of a sudden you don't have enough guys to fill a certain position. Well, I'll go through that myself. As you can see, I've got like 2 guys this season are going to retire at quarterback, tight end. I've got 3 guys, well, no, 2 guys about to retire at tight end, 1 guy about to retire at center, 1 guy about to retire on offensive line, or a couple of guys on the offensive line who are about to retire. Defensive line, linebacker. All these positions have guys who are retiring. So how do I deal with this? Well, I mean, if you've followed me along with me as I've scrolled through here, you see how I deal with it. I draft a lot of players, a buttload of players. Admittedly, right now I don't have as many running backs as I would like to have, but even then I'm covered. Look at this. See how many running backs I've got? I like to have like 10, 15. But I've got wide receivers and I've got tight ends. And in my offense, I can use a tight end or a wide receiver as a running back. So even then, I am good to go. And that goes with a concept that I use, and I'll be getting to that in just a little bit of time here. Because today, like I said, we're going to be looking at our auction house for just a few moments. Okay, so in the auction house, I like to go after guys who are they're young, and I want them to have a high training percentage. I like to go after guys, everybody likes to go after guys who have the highest training percentage. The guys with the highest training percentage of the game, and this keeps doing this, sorry about this, come on, close, are these pack players that sell over here. These guys have a 200% training percentage. And so when they train for 4 hours, they'll have like 2 or 3 points from that training session for 4 hours. And then after the end of the season, they have a really good training, a number of points that you can add to their total wherever you want them to be put at. But then you have other guys like this who are selling for thousands, and this guy's got a good training percentage. He's got like a 160. He doesn't train as well as the guy from 170 to 200 percentage, but he still gets 1 or 2 points for 4 hours of training, which is still pretty good. If I know I'm going to be facing a shortage at a position, I'll get young guys like this. And this guy, I can make him a linebacker. He's already got decent tackling. And all I have to do is add some anti-juke, some strength, and then maybe some hit power. And he's not that far off from hit power. If I were to go after this guy, and I can't because I can't afford him, I would make this guy a linebacker. And that goes with what was going to get into here in a few moments, cross training, and that's very, very, very important. But as far as going after players, I go after guys with the highest training percentage. Some people are going to insist that energy recovering speed is just as important. Not so much for me, because that is what your hospital is for. Also, under your offense, toughness. You build up your toughness to max. These guys aren't going to get hurt that much, and so this becomes a meaningless stat for me. This would be a player that I would like to go after. Guys with even down to the 90s. Let's say 90. This guy had a 98 training percentage. I would still go after him. He's young, and this right here is already built up. I mean, it wouldn't take long at all to make this guy into a good offensive lineman for me. And see, that's another thing that you have to look at when you're looking at these players. Don't see them at the position that they're in. You can turn these guys into anything. They are all interchangeable. If you have a tablet or a phone, hey, borrow your mom's phone, install the game and pull these players into place here. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But I mean, like I said, you can turn this guy into anything. Or maybe not this guy. He's got too low of a training percentage. But let's say his training percentage was 90, and let's say he's 24. He would be a project. He'd be a player I would go after if his training was just a bit higher. If his training was around 90, yeah, I would go after him. Guys with training stats like this, stay away. I don't care if they're 18 years old. This guy might be ready. If he were 18 years old, he might be ready to go by the time he's 31, 32. Not worth it. Okay, there is a best time of day to recruit these players. For me, I found that to be between midnight and 6 a.m. in the morning, because not everybody is a night owl like me. So you can find somebody like this. Let's say he's got like a really good training percentage. He's got a decent training percentage, and he's almost ready to go for the offensive line. It would take a little bit of doing. I might offensive line. He's a defensive lineman. I might use this guy as a linebacker, because it would take a while to build up his stats here. He's 24. I don't know. I might make him a defensive lineman at some point, but I mean, yeah, right away I would start training him to be a linebacker. And like I said, when you see these players, don't see them at the position that they're in. Imagine where they could be. And I'm going to show you now what I mean by this. Remember, there is the best time of day to draft these guys, and generally that's late at night. Swoop in within the last 5 minutes or so. If they're still going for a low percentage, like say 1 point, 100 points, 200 points, then you can swoop in and steal them. Also, on the Android and the Mac devices, you can watch these training videos. There'll be a green button up here, and you can earn, or pretty much double your recruiting points for the day. I would earn 52 points for watching 6 videos, 52 points each video that I watch, and that is about 300 and something points. That would double what I would make in a day as far as recruiting. So recruiting points and all that, 1/2 of the lifeblood of your training, of your program. The other part is training. Now I'm going to show you what I've meant by cross training. I'm going to swoop down to the offensive line, and I'll show you some of the guys that I've got cross trained. First of all, I mean, one of the examples of cross training is right here. I mean, I can use my tight ends as running backs. I've got a couple who are already trained. I think Brondon's trained. Well, not quite. Is it Brandon that was trained to be a running back? Yeah. This guy can go as a running back already. I need to add a little bit more to his penetration, where he can hit the defensive line and go through. But this could be a running back for me. And also the wide receiver position. These guys up here, some of these guys can be a wide receiver for me. They can be a running back, I should say. This guy here can jump in, and he's got the max speed, stamina, carry, and then penetration, juke, toughness. So he's not going to get hurt. And then attack acceleration. And he has, I guess, a decent energy recovering speed because of the hospital. But as you can see, this guy can also be a running back if I wanted him to be. I have some offensive linemen here. This is how I combat my defensive line troubles. This guy here, low training percentage, but when I got him, he was already trained right in here. These 3 stats were already at max, so I didn't have to worry too much about him. But I still wanted him, because I can train him to be a defensive lineman in a pinch. Let's see. He's got good tackle skills, add 5 more points here, and he would be a backup. He wouldn't be a starter, because he doesn't have good hit power either. But, I mean, he's young still, and he could sub for me on the defensive line. Liam is another guy. The only thing he's missing, he's got all these stats that I need here. The only thing he's missing, he's just 1 point away from having enough hit power to start for me on the defensive line. That's the only thing keeping him from being a defensive starter for me. I'm always thinking 1 step ahead. What if I lose this guy? What if I lose these guys? Then I always have someone to step in and fill in for them. A lot of people will take a look at this guy right here. This guy's a quarterback, and that's all they see is a quarterback. But I look at his stats, and I'm thinking, I could probably make him defensive lineman. I can make him a linebacker. I can make him a wide receiver. He's got receiving skills already. And I got him this season, and he's only 23. He's got a great training speed, so I can make him a wide receiver. All I have to do is add to his penetration strength. You can see he's already got hit power, so I can make him a defensive lineman if I wanted it. I showed you in a past video how I made a kicker into a linebacker, and again, this is kind of how I did it. You pull the player out. Let's say we were going to make this offensive lineman a defensive lineman. Pull him out. Come on, pull him out. He's not wanting to pull. Alright, so let's say this is your right hand. With your left hand, you would touch the defensive screen, the button right here, and it goes to the line with your defense. And then just drop him on the defensive line where you want him to go. And there you go, you substituted. The game would want you to change posts, and it would cost you 9 gold pieces to change his position. Well, I just showed you how to do it for free, so don't worry about that. If you have a touchscreen device, then you can do this. If you don't, well, borrow your brother's, your wife, your grandma, whatever, borrow their phone for a few minutes and make it happen. I hope that this can help somebody. It may not help you for this season. You might have to do what I call tanking for a season, and what that means is that you're probably going to lose a lot of games this season, but just be building for next season. Recruiting players, training them, cross-training them for other positions, because all of these players are interchangeable. Every single one of them can be something else if you just give them the right stats. That's all we got time for today. Again, this is like the 5th time I've recorded this. Hopefully this time it'll take, and as always, I'll see you guys in the funny pages.